Ikoria Collector's Boosters have been a large, big hit success. Every person I've seen open one has just been like, wow, this is awesome, I want to open more. Why is that? We're going to dig deeper into that in this video, and the video starts right now. Special thanks to our Patreon supporters who power our channel. Check out our Patreon for monthly giveaways, exclusive content, and even a starring role in our fan fight series. Link in the description below. Hello and welcome to the day. Thank you for spending your time with us. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. I am Joel. We're going to dive into Ikoria Collector's Boosters and track the history of Collector's Boosters through Storybook Eldraine art, Constellation Theros art, and now to comic book Ikoria art, plus Godzilla license in our MTG game. But first, if you wouldn't mind, go down there, hit like, hit subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. This is a little bit of a differential for us. We're going a little off book, but if you like it, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let us know that you want to see more like it. Jake is currently planeswalking, and so I've got a special guest with me today. His name is Vorthos Mike. Vorthos Mike, say hey, give us a wave.
Hello. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Mr. Mike is what I consider the aficionado of all things art in the MTG world. We have been friends on Twitter for a long time. This is his first time on the channel. Mr. Mike, have you been impressed with Ikoria Collector's Boosters? We've got a large conversation to get into, but first impressions, what are you thinking?
I think these are the ones you have to get. Right? Is it not immediately they're like, oh man, I gotta get these, and you're like looking for deals. You're looking for who's your boy that's getting sponsored by X and Y.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You gotta pick them up.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. As I was saying, let's jump right into this conversation. Storybook Eldraine art, Constellation Theros art, and now comic book Ikoria art combined with a Godzilla license. We have had a hell of an evolution of collector's boosters and really expanding the collectability of MTG cards and art in general. Where did you think that we were headed when you first saw Storybook Eldraine art, and do you think that we're in a good place now?
I think it's better than it's ever been for this, and I think that the options are almost Swiss Army-like, where you can now pick, okay, collector's boosters, we're going to do A, B, and C. Remember when these things came out and we had to have like the Excel charts? You're like, whoa, wait, what's in what?
Right.
You feel like you're an alien and you're like, mythic rarity? What does that mean?
Normally in any of our videos, we can just explain what is going to be in a booster, but I remember very clearly having to we were just like, let's just use the WotC art. They got this great graphic. It's got the cards splayed out. You get one of these, 3 of these, 4 of these, because that was where the conversation was at this time. But now it feels like, oh, I'm paying more money for a collector's booster of Ikoria stuff, but you know what? I'm just going to open some dope stuff. I'm not worried so much about, all right, what are these 3 going to be? What are these 1 going to be? What's these 2 going to be?
Right. Of anything, it's for people that have been playing a really, really long time. It's cyclical. It's cyclical comical that, oh yeah, there was no rares. It used to be a U1, and you're like, man, you're going to fade into dust. You're a dinosaur. At the same time, the evolution of saying, oh, they added a token. Oh, Time Spiral. There's a weird card at the back. Like, people didn't know that.
Right.
Now it's, oh yeah, there's this many uncommons in a set. There's this many commons in each pack. And these things are like, oh yeah, borderless planeswalkers. That's what we're called. And we're the ones struggling. Where you see 13-year-olds who are like, yeah. They're called showcase cards, not comic book. And you're like, oh man, I got dunked on by some Dylan. And that feels great. Because, they soak it up so much faster than we do. And that joy when we had where you open a mythic rare, Shards of Alara, are you kidding me?
Right.
That same feel is exactly what this is in Collector's Boosters. But you can guarantee that feel instead of it being randomized. And exactly. I love that. I am all about that life as an adult that can pick up one of these per set, no big deal.
Yeah, speaking as a person who doesn't really buy boosters anymore, I'm super on the don't buy boosters, buy singles train, right. Because that's eventually where you get with this game. These have enticed me more than ever. I saw a lot of people with the Eldraine boosters really interested in the storybook art. I saw enough people, I would say, interested in the Theros constellation art. Right. But these Ikoria Collector's boosters, as I've watched videos on YouTube of openings, as I've seen people tweet about it, these Collector's boosters in general have just been so much more enticing and exciting, and people have been super stoked about these packs. What do you think has been the difference as we've gone from the first time they were introduced? I think I saw it on our Finance, MTG Finance post, the slide of a executives meeting of them telling what a collector's boosters was going to be, to now with Ikoria's boosters, collector's boosters being the comic book style art and the Godzilla license. What do you think the difference is between where we started and where we are now?
I think it's the familiarity. Again, this it's like Novocaine. You get a little bit and you're like, ooh, a lot going on there. But you start to do a second one, they're like, oh, okay. It's like weird little variants, I get it. Some of the different art, fine. And then you're like, okay, this is for me. And now they have these cards that are like, oh, these are commanders. Then they're like, oh, well, biscuits. I didn't play an Enchantress deck for the Theros ones, but I'm making some big beasties. I need that. I want that weird variant. I want that comic book guy. So, like, someone sat in a meeting that was like, listen, storybook them, alt art, different frame, because frames are the biggest things people freak out about.
Sure.
Masterpiece 1.0, remember?
Hey, some of the coolest Twitter accounts are all people that are proxying frames and changing up the designs, and those kind of, tons of people follow them.
Totally. Like, the art can change radically, and people won't go up in arms as much.
Right.
Like, even vintage players are like, ha, new spell pierce, whatever,
sure.
Different brainstorm. But as soon as you change the frame, people freak out. They utterly freak out. Please do old border. No. That's a good thing you're asking for it. That's a wonderful thing to ask for it. Such that we've now displaced it from Storybook, and Alterison do have their fun, Eric Klug, your boy, doing a ton of stuff, to now it's, okay, well, we're going to do normal, but totally change the art. And then, as no one's been talking about, like the Godzilla stuff is just stripped away, and it's just all art. It's right. Just all art, and it's just they're like, oh yeah, the Godzilla ones. You're not thinking about how there's no border.
Yeah. And
it has so much more space to see.
I've never seen people so excited to open a common that was alternate art as this Ikoria Collector's art. And so we've got Godzilla, the licensed stuff. We'll take that and put that to the side for a second.
Yep.
Let's just talk about the alternate Ikoria art.
Sure.
This art, I mean, compared to Constellations for Theros, it's just not even a conversation. Compared to Eldraine, I get it because it was storybook. I know a lot of people that very close to me that were super invested in that art and wanted to buy collector's boosters where they may not even go out and buy a regular booster. They wanted that Eldraine storybook art. But this one seems like it seems like 3 steps forward from where we were, especially if the in-between step was the Theros constellations, which were fine and made sense, but it seemed like we were being eased into it, like you were alluding to.
I think so, and I think Jason Engel really doing them all really had people be like, oh yeah, I get it, it's the constellation thing, Jason Engel, great.
Right.
Whereas the only instance of that in Eldraine was Jen Ravenna's Murderous Rider, where it was like, oh, this is washi paper, it's a storybook Japan. And you're like, oh, yo, okay. And I think this really took that idea and said, okay, we're going to make comic book art, whether, which is, flat color generally, thicker border, black outlines, fine. And we're going to make it Americanized version.
Right.
We're going to add a little manga in it. You look at Gem Razor and you're like, yo, that's straight out of Akihabara.
Yes.
Love it.
Yes, I can't remember the name of it right now, but the Double Strike Mutator Legend was one of the first ones that we saw as a piece of promotional art. And it looked
Snapdex, yeah.
Snapdex, yes.
Yeah.
We saw that one first, and Jake and I seriously were just like taken aback by how different it was. We were honestly at that time seeing it just in a vacuum on a piece of paper, no frame, no nothing. Especially not, side by side with the rest of the set. We were just like, what exactly are we looking at? What direction are we going in here? But then when you see it as a whole, both of us were like, oh, yeah, dope. I want to own many of these.
I'm about that life.
Right.
And this style is new to American players.
Sure.
Like, we got to focus that we're so very USA-centric.
Absolutely.
That if you played Duel Masters, which had a promo in a packet of curry ramen, like, they had, like, a ramen box, and there was a card promo in there.
What?
And it, like, smelled like it. Dude, Duel Masters has, like, raised foil that's, like, feel...
Yeah.
And it's like different. They're like 10 years ahead.
I don't even know about this. I'm going to have to look that up.
They're called master foils. It's a whole thing. I can throw one on Twitter if people want to see.
God.
But that idea of this art exploding out over the border, they already did. That they're testing it in that product.
Yeah.
And if you pay attention to it and you understand that, you're like, okay, they might not use all the pieces, but this Snapdex was like, okay, totally, instead of just like a peek over a frame, it's going to have art over the card name.
Right.
You don't need to know card name.
No, you don't need.
You know what this is if you're playing Command.
Exactly.
Everybody knows it's your Snapdex deck.
Last week we reviewed the new secret layer of the lightning bolts, and one of our main points was, why did you put text on these? The art speaks for itself. The card is iconic as all F. We know what card this is. We don't need text on these. Let's emphasize the art. So yeah, you're absolutely right. We don't need to see the text for each individual card. Just blow it up and make it this huge iconic card. Do you think that we have been, as a consumer base, have we been being led slowly to this decision? And do you think they needed to kind of guide us to enjoying this? Or do you think we could have just jumped right to Ikoria Collector's Booster style? Not even like putting the licensing on the side. No. Do you think we could have just jumped to this and been fine?
Absolutely not. It's an acclimation process like a lobster in the pot. It just is. And I think that point of leaving licensed material, if you did a straight up new Phyrexia set tomorrow, say it's coming out, it's not, I don't know when it is.
New Phyrexia in September.
Yeah, whatever the new thing is, whatever. They have to go back there, Koth is still there, and you're like, what's Koth doing? Like, eventually, right? Say you go there, and that's the next set, and you do something Transformers instead of Godzilla.
Right.
The robots.
Yeah, it's metal. It's all metal.
Right.
Makes
like,
sense.
It would make sense.
Yeah.
But it would be so jarring to people that, you plant something and be like, all right, we're going to have Transformers promo at San Diego Comic-Con. We're going to have a little bit of Nerf in this weird dog here. And really low...
My Little Pony as a fundraiser for a charity. Don't worry about it. It's a charity fundraiser, guys.
It's all low risk.
Right.
It's low risk stuff to test it. So, like, G.I. Joe would be a great example. Okay, maybe that doesn't fit in a normal set. Okay, maybe there's like different stacks that you could say, okay, well, this could be a secret layer, and it helps benefit veterans, which they've already done in years past with playmats. They had those Magic Army playmats. They're super cool.
Exactly.
Way back in the day. So there is a precedent, but then it's how far can you go with that lever? Can you do a Monopoly thing?
Right, and that's exactly where I wanted to take the conversation was how far can you go? Where is the line? We're not going to see, I don't honestly want to open up, I'm opening up a question to you with an opinion, but here you go. I don't want to open up a booster pack with Optimus Prime, blue, white, 3 other, it's a 5/5 trampling flyer, but I do also like the proxy version. Those Godzilla cards, I will play them, and I want those, and I want to get more licensed material. I hunger for more of that style of licensed material of cards that actually exist. I think that it was a stroke of genius with the little name under the frame so that you can make it the actual card, but also make it the licensed card that you want it to be.
Right.
But do you think that we'll see Nerf guns and Transformers in MTG, or do you think that'll damage the brand?
Well, it's brand dilution of every question every brand manager has. I have a friend that's a brand manager at Pokemon, and he brings it up all the time to say, you can give out a Pokemon card at a movie for Pokemon, and you get a card, right? That makes sense.
I did it. I got the Mew. It was in hieroglyphics.
A perfect example. Imagine that's a Transformers thing, and instead of a secret layer, you get it at a movie.
Right.
And it's a Magic card. And you're like, oh, yeah, this is all Hasbro. That's super cool. People will be thrilled. So that's one end. The other end is you open it up in a normal pack, and then collector's boosters are somewhere in the middle, and secret layer are farther over.
Sure.
And I think us seeing this collector's boosters, and you're like, well, Japan has exclusive ones, but people actually aren't angry about that. They're really not. They're more wondering, oh, okay, well, that's how I get those. That's cool.
Right.
What's next? When are we going to Viking World? And all the Danish and Scandinavians are going to say, what about Asterix and Obelix? You know, their iconic comic book thing.
Yeah.
Can we get something like that too? Can
Incan,
we get, like,
Mayan, Central American kind of thing too.
Exactly. That region specific of every language Magic is in
right.
can have an iconic property in Portugal or Brazil or Italy. And I love that. Like, there's probably weird folklore stuff in Russia that could have region specific. And I think that sounds really cool, even if it is silly difficult to get, only in collector's boosters, only in a buy a box. I think that's better for us as a global game to see different cultural representations, different visual representations than just the same fantasy thing, which works, but we have the option now and we're open to it.
And if you think about it, even going back as far as War of the Spark, we had regional specific card art, I believe, that tied in and was different, and you couldn't get it anywhere else. You had to order that region's booster boxes or whatever to be able to acquire those cards.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I am all about that life. I want to see that more because we get more art. That's always the goal. I want more artists getting paid, more artists doing work, and if it could be, okay, well, we have to do it with a brand, with its, I don't know, G.I. Joe or something, fine. If we have to do it by region and only a certain area, I think that's fine too. And I think as Hasbro has so many tendrils out there, we're going to have a Netflix show. Like, there's going to be a movie eventually.
Right.
Like, that immediate tie-in where you can have...
We've got an MMO coming that's really a mobile game, but sure, whatever, call it what you want.
Mobile game or action RPG, like...
Yeah.
Make Diablo 2 and Magic, I'm going to play that for days.
Oh, man.
Easy.
You're not even lying. When they said it's just an isometric top-down, I was just like, all right, well, I'm still going to play it, guys. That's
still
okay.
Cool. That's still super cool. But those sort of tie-ins where you could say, okay, you get this into digital thing into Arena, and then Arena has something that ties to your LGS.
Right.
That brings in new players that, you know, for whatever reason, they weren't introduced by a friend. They didn't learn on a scout trip. You know,
yeah,
they didn't
absolutely.
have that
well, and it's
older brother or whatever.
It's bringing the whole franchise into where we, I think, all wanted it 4 or 5 years ago when we saw everything moving this direction. And we're pulling our hair out going, God, you got to lean into the digital. You got to lean into the social. Right. You got to, like, now they're doing what we wanted them to do. So one of the things that we like to do on this channel is speculate a little bit and like to call our shots. What do you think in the next, let's say 2 years, so 2 years from now, what do you think as far as licensed material, how far are we going to go? Call some Hasbro shots because those are fairly easy. You can go, if you're watching this right now, go Google Hasbro brands and you'll see real quickly where it kind of lines up with what we already have. Sure. But even outside that, how far do you think we're going to go with licensed material?
How far do I think? Okay, so... There's always the issue of onboarding new players to Magic, right? It's a different model from Hasbro, which is every kid in America has $6 and they can buy a toy. Right. Magic is not that.
Go buy a Transformer, go buy a Little Pony is way different from go buy a booster pack.
Right. The penetration rate and the market share is different. Magic is not buy one booster or whatever. Right. It's less of a percentage of people. But those people then invest $100, $50, whatever that a dollar amount is, which is significantly higher a year, and become enfranchised more than a kid that may change toys easily. That's a very different business model.
Absolutely.
So by doing that, you have a problem with entry. The entry point is the issue. And this is where Duels of the Planeswalkers figured this out. That's why Zendikar exploded, because of, fetch lands, sure. Yeah, gave you a lob there.
Sure.
But the Duels of the Planeswalkers was the way they got into the game, and they're like, whoa, I could do this in person? I want that cardboard smell.
Yeah.
I remember hearing about Magic, and then they got the perfect petri dish of a fun set. You know, you could align to a Khanate, and there was fetch lands with Value Town, which, you know, you guys are into.
Oh, yeah.
And it just exploded from there, and that Arena is starting to do that in a larger way with esports.
Definitely.
But we just entered a pandemic. Like, there's just no way around that. If the pandemic doesn't exist, there's so many more ways to enjoy monsters in person and interesting ways that they've interacted with even cosplay of make your own monster or be your monster or dress up your dog, whatever. That
Absolutely.
They got interrupted. And I think that momentum that they were building hugely got interrupted. But luckily, there's some pretty big sets coming. There's a giant master set, which is going to be bananas for enfranchised. Brand new people get to play Zendikar again, which is great.
Well, and luckily we were 2 years into Arena being developed. I don't care what the timeline was of what they called beta versus what they didn't call beta, and we were out of beta. But by the time that we are here today, it is at a playable enough place that they can do whatever they want with it, really. And they can continue to cater to the people that are sitting at home. But licensing, I want... okay,
No, the license... I'm getting to this. It's all about the entry level, though.
Sure.
So the entry level has been digital Magic, right? And that will get replaced by something prior, something younger, which feels like dilution, but it's not. It's everything from Play-Doh.
No, yeah, it's an interesting thought.
It's colored things in Play-Doh. You get your 5 colors. You have other things.
Look at
you
My
make
Little
there.
Pony. Yeah, I mean,
it's My Little Pony is one of them. How can you get Nerf things that feel like Magic or the trolls to interact with them? And it's partially placement in stores.
Yeah,
the Walmart area, the Target store thing. How can Magic say we're gonna co-brand a thing because they've done that with Operation and 100 other brands, right? Hasbro has yet to do that with Magic with its marquee brands. That's really significant that they haven't done that yet.
Yeah, you're absolutely
right. When
right.
they start doing that, that has to coincide. We saw it with Transformers. Transformers was dead for a long time until the movies came back.
Right.
Then it was Transformers card game, Transformers figures, Transformers Clue, Transformers Life, whatever.
Everywhere.
Magic, as soon as you start to see that first thing, you'll start to see a toppling effect of, okay, this co-branded license thing works, this one doesn't. And they've been testing them one-ofs all over the place. San Diego Comic-Con, Nerf Axe, Garrick, one-of cards here and there. You're going to see a lot more in that space. And I think that branded personality with Twitch that allows the cosplayer to interact with a different audience, moving into that space with humans you get to interact with, is where they're going to move that. How that works on an analog product that sells on a shelf is the big question. That's the $1 million question.
Well, if you compare it to something like Pokemon, which I consider just one of the most I don't even have to consider it this. It's one of the most successful children's franchises of all time that also adults play, and they've provided a way with EV training and all this kind of stuff to give adults an outlet to really enjoy the game at a deeper level. But if you look at the base level, when I go to a Target, like you were talking about, I've started to see MTG stuff pop up on the shelves. It's over in that section where the baseball cards and the football cards and the Star Wars cards, why they still make those for some reason, they still exist. It's over there. But if I go back to the kids section, because I'm looking at the board games, because that's where those sit, if you go through the kids section to get there, you see Pokemon stuff on those aisles as well. And it's those packs with the coin and the hugely oversized cards and the couple playable cards that you can also use in a deck. I don't engage with that game. I don't know what those packages are, what value they represent, if they're competitive cards or whatever. But it is a very shiny, enticing product that can draw a new player into the game at a younger age. And I think that's kind of what you're getting at.
It is entirely that. And Pokemon is a lower barrier for entry. Because it's, okay, the Magic tried this with the pre-made F&M decks. Do you remember those?
Yeah, absolutely.
And they were effective to some extent. But again, that price point is still higher than entry level.
Yeah, I was going to bring those up when you were talking about, something that someone can go and purchase. You can't go buy a booster pack and then be playing Magic. Correct. But they did like market test with these, competitive standard decks in the last 6 months of a standard rotation. You can go and buy these, and right out of the box, you can be ready to go. And then if you get 2 booster packs, you can supplement them almost immediately. And that was closer to that. But yeah, those weren't a huge success, but I think it has to do with the rotation of the format.
It's a test, though. Like all of those, even game night. like how many friends do you have that played Magic but don't play it anymore?
Well, I asked that question to try and see if you were going to be like, James Bond will be a license or Power Rangers will be a license, but I preferred our discussion, man. That answer was much better.
It's not like you can't think of an inch and a mile wide. It's really a ramp up where vintage is here.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Commander Enthusiast with Korean promos is right below it because literally they're the exact same person. And then it goes all the way down, and where you have your gaps is really what they're working on.
Right.
And the biggest one is at the beginning.
So
and
you have
that intro thing.
Yeah.
Usually is a TV show. That's what G.I. Joe did. That's what they did in the 80s.
And we thought that the Netflix was going to be that, but that has since, I think, been either shelved or iced or canceled or whatever, corporate lingo they want to give for that. But that doesn't seem as viable an entry point anymore.
There has been more than one idea.
Yeah.
It's not a uniform...
No.
See, how much can I actually speak about this? It's not a single pitch they did, and it's not a single thing they've pitched.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been different levels of them. If you've worked in the TV industry, it's not just pilot show, go bang. It's starts and stops, get halfway through, get through casting, something happens. Like, there's actually been a lot behind the scenes. It's just nobody's going to talk about that because it's either under NDA or without a tangible thing going, you don't talk about it because you shouldn't until it's ready. So it's something they're still really working on because Yu-Gi-Oh!, because Pokemon. It is a 30-minute commercial to your game.
Exactly.
It is the on-road. And some of this with art is the same as it was with Shivan Dragon luring us in. That was the thing, weird, cool thing we heard about. This new, this comic book art, every comic book shop is like, oh, comic book art, I like that.
Yeah.
They become talking about it. That's marketing for them. It draws in eyeballs.
Well, and the marketing and the posters, they look so different. I mean, the snapbacks that we were talking about at the beginning of the conversation, we shot a whole video just on that art because we were like, this is weird, different. What's going on? Do we like this? Is this a good direction? Sure. But then it was absolutely confirmed that that's a collector's booster or, what is it? Alternate art. What is the...
Showcase art. You can get that in packs, but you can't get like the foil version as high a rate, and you can't get the extended border things.
So the showcase art. There you go. You can do, if they can do anything they want with that showcase art, it's drawing more eyes in, it's pulling attention to the brand, and it's doing what you're talking about would be the goal to do.
Well, I should ask you this, and we had this a little bit in the notes, is to say, they've had the hype before. Eldraine Deluxe Collection.
Yes.
This is very similar. Very similar. Hype, Value Town.
Right.
And
it's the only... Finish your question.
Mind you, we had a $1,000 card in Standard.
Right.
Do you remember? War of the Spark, a mono, foil, Liliana.
Right.
$1,000. Not like, a near mint, graded. Like, no. It was $1,000.
Right.
People wanted it. That was the first instance where incredible scarcity with art being the driver. And a mono's a big deal. Like, if you're into anything fantasy, Final Fantasy, you know who he is.
Absolutely.
It was a fire in a bottle to say the right artist can do that. That's really cool. And these secret layers are working through that idea of, what a tattoo art, or maybe it's the mechanical thing, Snowlands, cool. Okay, well those did okay. The actual art variations is really what drive it. Right. And I think the Eldraine Collector's Deluxe Collection, it was so close to the boutique products that Blizzard does. Boutique products, low print run, highly expensive, hype stuff, usually statues, things like that. And they had the high-end items in the cool box, the packs you have to have. They had the collector's boosters, great, but the other pieces weren't scarce enough.
Right.
Say that poster print, say it's a lithograph on archival paper signed by the artist, and the artist can't make prints of these.
Numbered, yes.
Numbered, signed.
The whole deal.
Make the Charles Barkley piece of the jersey in it. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what will always be missing from sports. But yeah,
exactly.
Sure.
Yeah, right. But that piece of this artist can sell this print after.
Right.
That was a loose end. If that locks down, and he's like, I'm a digital artist. These are the only things I'm ever making for prints. I got paid more to do that, so good for me. That's great.
Sure.
And then I got brought in to do this process. This is the only way to get this ever. That would have worked.
Exclusivity is the driver. Jake did not camp outside of San Diego Comic-Con overnight for something that he could purchase, on a Hasbro store 6 months later. You know what I'm saying? Right. He wanted it then. He needed that copy because nobody else could get that copy. And then, like I've got the Jace the Mind Sculptor up here. It's not something that you show off the things that are like, I got one of the 150 of these things. You don't show off it's a cool piece, right? Tell me it's cool because also 1,000 other people have it. The exclusive thing is the driver.
The thing is the exclusivity is what can bite you in the butt. Because as soon as you list a numbered amount, what happens if you go over? The goal is to sell as many as possible, right?
Right. Well, and that's where you balance we are wizards, we are owned by Hasbro. Where does that balance
Where do you go? Do you make
right.
5,000 of them? What if you only sell 200?
Right.
Then what?
Yeah, exactly.
But that idea of the test, I think, is well done. I think all of the pieces are expensive, yes. I think a way that you can instruct more value into it is this mega code card for Arena they did. You get sleeves, you get a copy of a couple cards. That could have expanded huge, and it wouldn't have added any real cost on the back end, but you would have felt value. You could have been like, you get 10 free drafts. Right. You get a foil copy of everything in every common, or whatever those things are. And people will be like, ooh, okay, yeah, I need this. But the cost on the back end of the company bites. It's nothing.
It's nothing. And look, honestly, I'll tell you one of the biggest stumbles with these secret layers that I've noticed, and this is only as a collector, we haven't even put this on the channel yet, or won't ever because it's such a small thing, because it's just something you feel as a buyer. When I buy a secret layer and they say part of the value of this is you're going to get a code for an exclusive sleeve that'll be on Arena and you can put it on your decks, and people will be like, oh wow, he bought Kaleidoscope Killers, look at that dope art on the back of that sleeve. But then 2 months, 3 months later, you sell that sleeve for 5,000 gold, it lessens it. And so that exclusivity goes away. And so when we do our Is It Worth It secret layer value videos like we do on our channel, we always say, well, you can sell the code for the sleeve for like $4 or $5 on eBay. And so it's, it's not a zero amount that you're going to get for that code, but make sure you sell it if you don't want it in the first month or two, because who knows when they're going to throw it up on the store and degrade that part, that tiny part, such a minuscule part of the exclusivity. But it is a part that should be recognized because, like you're saying, that exclusivity, that drives it so hard.
I think you're right. I think that piece is where you can also get your enfranchised players in.
Right.
Some of this happened when they started freeing up playmats, right? The Vintage Championships. Oh, this is the only place to get this playmat.
Right.
And you're like, it's our Baghdad. I gotta go.
Yes.
Whereas here you could say, you want that spicy boy? You want Eric Peterson Plains Odyssey with the lightning storm on Arena? This is the only place to get it.
That's
and you're like,
it.
well, that has nothing to do with Eldraine. And they're like, okay. And you're like, I gotta get it now.
I know.
Like, that becomes that locked in place.
Right.
The problem is you have to have some sort of time limit in it.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just say it's forever and ever, because
no, you can't. Well, I remember as a kid, and I know we've related a bunch of this conversation back to Pokemon, but I remember as a kid, there was this promotion when I was very young that you had to go to Six Flags over these like 4 weekends, and they would put a Mew on your game that wasn't one of the like hacked Mews that you could get, but it was like legit, and you would get a card and you would get a signature, and it was all part of this like, you're a Pokemon trainer in the real world even though it's on Game Boy kind of promotion
thing.
And it's exactly what you're talking about. There was a time limit. You had to go to this thing. I'm going, Mom, Dad, you got to get me up to Six Flags because we got to do the thing. And then Mom, Dad are like, well, we're freaking Six Flags. Let's buy a couple tickets and go inside. We're not turning around, you know?
No, I think you're totally right. I think that ability where you can tie it to brick and mortar, like, yes, LGSs, don't get me wrong, I want to have it at my LGS all the time,
yes.
But I also grew up in Germany, and I know a lot of those places, they just play at a university, in a cafeteria. Like, I'm not ignorant to that fact. Or tiny places I visited in Switzerland.
Well, and WotC's entire rhetoric, commander and kitchen table drives our game. We're trying the best that we can for the rest of you.
But I think that piece of the big box store exists in other countries. Like, they have places like, you know, KB Toys of Italy, whatever, that we just call it Target. And Target has the Target exclusive things, whether it's a exclusive B-side track to Taylor Swift as you would buy normally, or whatever, you buy this special booster pack thing, and if you get them at Target, they have an extra code on the inside.
Right.
That cost is so low, but it's expensive. It's expensive to get that different SKU set up with marketing support, which waits for, if you have a TV show or you got a movie, you easy do that. You're going to get it on Fruit Snacks.
Right.
No problem. But to get it in that store, you need something larger to go. And Arena's so close. It's so close to that.
Right there.
That the next piece will be when Arena comes and Legends comes at the same time, you'll start to see some of those things where it's get the download code, do the thing in store, buy a booster pack, and you can make it work. It's not that hard. It's just you can't shoot before your thing is ready, because then it will just flop entirely, and then it will discourage future iterations, which you cannot do.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So to kind of put a button on this entire thing, I have been given the power to give you full art direction of the Zendikar set that's coming out later, the collector's booster and the showcase art. I have the power to give that to you. Okay. What are 3 guiding tenets, or more or fewer, 3 guiding tenets that you're going to carry into how you're going to put showcase art for Zendikar and possibly even tie it into a license? How are you going to make collector's boosters successful for our return to Zendikar later in 2020?
Sure. First thing is easy. Yeah, they've already talked about it. We're getting back to the adventure world roots. Like, that really was the genesis of Zendikar. It wasn't
the best part of Zendikar.
That was arguably the best part of Zendikar. Yes, we all agree. But that adventuring thing, what brand does that best? Well, Dungeons and Dragons, sure. That's the easy step.
Yep.
The harder step is when you take 2 steps away. Is it Indiana Jones? Is it Lara Croft? Is it Uncharted, the video game series?
Tie it into a video game.
Oh, there you go. Well, you start to have, we're not going to compete with consoles. We're going to work with them.
Right.
And we're going to have exclusives on each other's systems. That, pretty spicy. I would look into those third-party things that make sense thematically, visually first. Number 1. Number 2 thing is you have to figure out how can you make land more significant than it already is. Mm-hmm. You know, it's focus on land. In Ikoria, we had no preview cards on the basic lands.
Right.
None. Nobody talked about them. No one got them. There was no focus. Jesper Ising had 5 of them. He was on the concept team. He wrote a giant blog post himself on it, and he was interviewed 3 other times. It's a missed opportunity. It happens. Zendikar, you cannot miss that. That has to be heavily focused. How can you show the royal? How can you show the different settlements of areas where the goblins were, where the Eldrazi influenced? You have to show us.
One of the mechanics was literally called landfall.
It's called landfall, literally. I think that idea of the triomes, like if you see the triome non-foils, oh my god, they're gorgeous. Mm-hmm. That thing has to be then represented again. And that, there's 1,000 different options how you can do that. That has to be number 2. The number 3 thing is, what drove Zendikar originally was play, which was really fun to play it. It just was.
Oh yeah.
And fetch lands. So, I'm not talking about reprinting fetch lands. I'm talking how can you get that experience of enfranchised players coming back for something that they're aware of.
Right.
Reprints. It has to be a reprint something that is familiar to them, is used by them, is known by them, that they can then reutilize.
Yeah. By
buying the new set, by playing the new set, getting singles, just showing up at a pre-release. I mean, that thing, I would do those 3 things right away. And have like meetings on it to say like, which of these fit? Are we just using D&D? Is that what we're doing? Are we defaulting? Or are we going to investigate something that hasn't been done yet?
Right. Yeah, my spicy take on the channel multiple times has been we had Allies on Zendikar originally. Power Rangers is already a Hasbro licensee team. Let's make, the Power Rangers almost line up with the colors of Magic perfectly. It's
Very
almost
close.
Plinko,
Very
but
close.
we missed by a couple. And so, yeah, it's I love that input, man. I really appreciate that input.
No problem. I mean, you could just say, why don't they just use Axis and Allies? They already own that board game at Wizards of the Coast. But, I mean, it's a little far off to get World War II involved, but I get you.
Vorthos Mike, I appreciate you being on the channel. Jake's specialty is value and finance, and I like gameplay. We wanted to pull the curtain back on the art world and how that speaks to sets. Where can our viewers find you if they want to engage with you more?
Sure. I'm easily found on Twitter at Vorthos Mike. Honestly, you can Google Magic Art Mike, and I usually show up. If you do just do Magic Mike, that's bad. Don't do that. That won't help. But you gotta add art in there, and it usually pops up with either my archive of Cool Stuff Inc. Or just me yapping about art and forwarding people when they have questions to the right places. That's what I do every day.
Absolutely. You also write articles for Cool Stuff Inc.
Cool stuff. Yep. Have for a while now. Cripes.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate you watching. If you have any questions for Mr. Mike, leave them down below or hit him up on Twitter. If you want to hang out with us, we are streaming on YouTube, on Twitch all the time. Find us over there if you want to support us further. We have a Patreon. Link is down in the description below. And if you like this video and want to see more like it, like I said, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you know when a new video goes live or we go live streaming some gameplay. Mr. Vorthos Mike, we always end these videos by saying I am tapped out, so I am tapped out.